Whee! Big turnaround! Yay! Yeah. I'm Gary, and this is Coasting with Culture. I like to combine theme park visits and riding roller coasters with various cultural experiences around the world. Previously, I left Seattle to make my way to Winnipeg, Manitoba for a multi-day, multi-province visit across Canada. During my day in Manitoba, I stopped at the Morden Corn and Apple Festival and found a coaster to ride. Then tried for another at Tinkertown in Winnipeg, but it was closed due to weather. So I made up for it by heading to the Fork District and trying some great food like the tall grass cinnamon bun. Next, it's a day of seeking coasters in different parts of Ontario, as the province has several places with coaster credits to get. The first day of Ontario coaster credit seeking begins with the Blue Mountains and heads to the town of Bracebridge for Santa's Village, then to the Toronto Islands for Centerville Amusement Park, and then a final stop at Nebs Fun World in Oshawa. This was going to be a busy day as there were 4 stops for coaster credits with at least an hour drive between each of them, and a couple of the stops could take longer than others, so I decided to go with an easy breakfast stop on the way. Now you know this morning was going to start with another Tim Hortons stop. After a bit less than 2 hours, the first stop of the day was in Ontario's Blue Mountains. Blue Mountain Village is part of the Blue Mountain Ski Resort, with a number of suites for a vacation, along with restaurants and shops. Even when the winter snow is long gone, people still come to enjoy the sunny days of summer and the activities the resort offers. The plaza space offers more dining options, along with places to sit and relax, or with water fountains to play in on a warm day. Those who prefer drier activities can head to the slopes and take a ride up the mountain on one of the lifts for a better view, or take in a round of mini golf on a course with beautiful rockwork and waterfalls. For the more adventurous, you can challenge the rock climbing tower, or take on the adventure course with its various obstacles. For me, the main reason to come was the Ridge Runner mountain coaster. There were a few features that were different for this mountain coaster, including the spiral track that was used to stage carts as they awaited loading. And while most places simply have you sign a waiver if they require one, here they take your photo and use that in lieu of a signature. I got my lap on the coaster, but was a bit disappointed as I had the bad luck of riding behind a slow group. Since you can control your speed with the brakes on the car, this may happen from time to time on these. But it was a bit frustrating that this group would come to a complete stop at times, even though you're not supposed to until you get to the end. When the host asked how I enjoyed the ride, I told them about the group ahead of me, and they gave me a ticket for a re-ride before I even had a chance to say anything else, going above and beyond to ensure that I enjoyed the experience. Even though the line had gotten longer since that ride, I appreciated the opportunity to try it again, and the second time was much better. This ride sits in the woods for much of its course and has a ton of speed, plus it features a sort of triple down from 3 straight bunny hills down slope, and that made the ride even wilder. This mountain coaster is certainly worth a trek if you're visiting the Toronto area. Another almost 2-hour drive later, and that brought me to the second stop of the day, Santa's Village in the town of Bracebridge. This park had 2 coasters, one of which you could see from the parking lot. As I was ready to make my way into the park for 2 more credits, I would be greeted with bad news, like I had been the day before in Winnipeg. Arrived to a little bit of bad news here at Santa's Village in Bracebridge, Ontario. The spinning coaster is closed. Considering the price point being at $38 Canadian roughly. I mean, I know that the American conversion would bring it down a little bit for my own purposes, but that's still quite a bit of money for just one of the 2 coasters and then have to come back and do it again in the future. So I think I'm going to go ahead and cut my losses on these 2 for today, and then we'll go ahead and come back and try another time when hopefully both of them are operating so that I'm not paying to enter twice in the future. And so that way I can go ahead and get back on track here, because I am a little bit behind on my schedule thanks to the delay that happened for the mountain coaster doing the second lap. This should get me back on track time-wise, and so hopefully we'll have some better luck finding open coasters. But I tell you what, this hasn't been very successful so far with the number of closed rides that I've experienced between the closure of Tinkertown yesterday in Winnipeg and then one of the two coasters being closed here. I mean, granted, I could have gone in and ridden the other one, but I think I'll save it for another time. The decision to skip Santa's Village for this trip would be helpful, as there was traffic getting into downtown Toronto for the next stop. With the location of the third credit stop, I made my way to the waterfront to find the ferry terminal to the Toronto Islands, and this made for a very pleasant afternoon walk along the waters of Lake Ontario. Heading toward the terminal, I did find some strange figures that looked like a group of people wearing orange bodysuits floating together. I imagine that my initial reaction wasn't much different from what others would have said if they saw the same thing. I have no idea what these orange dudes floating in the middle water have to do with anything. It's really creepy looking though, because they're just kind of floating there very still. Upon researching it though, I learned that this was a temporary installation by two Boston-based artists called Safety Orange Swimmers, or SOS. This piece was meant to bring awareness to the growing refugee crisis around the world, with each of the 25 figures representing approximately 1 million refugees in the world, as there were an estimated 25.9 million refugees worldwide at the time this was placed. This piece would only be here for a few months, but it was certainly a striking thing to see, especially now knowing the meaning of it. SOS is located right alongside of Harbor Square Park, which is a nice location for the sights of the Toronto Islands and more of Lake Ontario. Plus, you'll see a number of geese and ducks who come to enjoy the area as well. Next door to the park is the location of Layton Ferry Terminal, where you can hop onto the pedestrian ferry that takes you across to the Toronto Islands. There are a few routes from this terminal, and the one I was seeking was the Middle Island. There may be a bit of a familiar feel to this ferry if you've been to Disney World, as it's a lot like the ferries taking you across the Seven Seas Lagoon from the Ticket and Transportation Center to the Magic Kingdom's front gate. While you won't be going to the most visited theme park in the world with this vessel, you will get to enjoy great views of the Toronto skyline. And you'll easily be able to see the CN Tower, along with the Rogers Center, formerly known as the Sky Dome. This is also a great opportunity to enjoy the views of Lake Ontario and the Toronto Islands. Before long, the ferry arrives to the other side and gives its passengers the chance to enjoy Center Island Park. Middle Island is one of the 15 islands that act as a natural barrier of Toronto Harbor from the larger part of Lake Ontario. It offers beautiful green space and shady trees as part of Center Island Park. People will come here for a variety of recreational activities, but one in particular has drawn me here, and that's Centerville Amusement Park. In many respects, the amusement park has a small town feel, with the buildings that are featured inside, like the replica courthouse that houses their gift shop. It also offers great places to sit back and enjoy a summer day in the shade. But chairs don't typically draw people to amusement parks, rides do. And Centerville has several rides that will appeal to various tastes, from a relaxing drive on the antique card ride that really fits in with the park, to the Denzel Antique Carousel with its hand-carved wooden animals and Wurlitzer band organ dating back to the year 1908. The Ferris wheel not only features a fun windmill theme, it too has some history as it once ran at the famous Crystal Beach Amusement Park from Crystal Beach, Ontario. One of the rides that shouldn't be missed here is their Sky Ride. While these may not always be the most thrilling ride to enjoy, some of them can make for a great way to see a park from above, and this one has some excellent views along the way. As you take to the sky, you'll get a bird's eye view of the nearby rides, and you can also see the barnyard animals of the petting zoo, from goats to cows and even pigs. But what really makes this Sky Ride stand out is that as you venture over other parts of Center Island Park, not only will you see kayakers below, but you can also enjoy a great view of the Toronto skyline in the distance. This is certainly one of the more scenic sky rides I've experienced in an amusement park.
Whee! Big turnaround! Yay! Yeah.
As the Sky Ride turns around, the return gives you a chance to see many of the sights again. Of course, the main reason for my visit to Centerville Amusement Park was to get another coaster credit, and that coaster was the Toronto Island Mine Coaster. This is one of the larger Myler Jr. coasters with a couple larger hills and an outer helix near the end, similar to those that you'll find at some of the larger theme parks. This is certainly more of a family coaster, but it's still a fun ride, even if it's just for the credit. The last ride I tried out before closing was their log flume. You may have heard of out and back coasters before. Well, if there was ever an out and back log flume, this was it. While there are a few bends in the course, it pretty much goes from one end to the other, turns around, heads up the lift, and has its big drop before turning right back toward the station. While the wave created by the boat may lead you to believe you'll get soaked, don't let that fool you.
This thing may have given me the lightest of light mists. Like, I actually feel pretty dry. There's hardly a splash that goes with it. So if you want to try a log flume that's not going to get you wet, this one will do the trick for you. It is kind of fun. It has a really neat view of the harbor area along with the marina nearby. I feel like I say this over and over again, but I love these smaller parks that are set up in city parks, especially in the case of Centerville here. It's a great setting filled with trees. There's a bunch of ponds. There's great open areas to enjoy, even if you're not going to the amusement park. But if you are going to the amusement park, they've got a pretty decent selection of rides. Log ride's pretty fun. They've got the Toronto Island Mine Train roller coaster, which is great for the younger ones and the coaster enthusiasts in training, and then the credit seekers like me who are trying to boost their count. And it really is a nice setting. Getting that view of downtown Toronto on the way in, just absolutely fantastic. Well, at this point, I still have one last stop to make before calling it a day, and hopefully we'll have much more success with this coaster as we did here and this morning back in Blue Mountain.
After getting to enjoy the island and the skyline views again on the way back to the city center, it was time for the hour-long drive to the town of Oshawa. Here there would be one last credit stop for the day, and that was Nebs Fun World. This is a family entertainment center that features a variety of activities from both 5 and 10 pin bowling to a fairly large arcade. Down the hallway from the main arcade is another arcade section which also features go-karts, and what brought me to their park, the Sparetime Express. This was a smaller junior coaster from Myler that rode above the go-kart track. Add this one to the list of coasters ridden. And so that brings me back here to the Airbnb, as it's time to go ahead and call it a night because tomorrow is going to be a full day visiting the largest park of the trip, and also getting a chance to, hopefully, by the end of tomorrow, hit coaster number 1000. Thank you for watching this Coasting with Culture video. If you'd like to see future videos about combining theme park visits and cultural experiences, please consider clicking that subscribe button down below. You'll also find Coasting with Culture on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, plus more content at coastingwithculture.com. Until next time, take care and safe travels.